Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to remove a charge off of your credit reports. I'm going to tell you exactly how it's done. I know that there's a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about how to remove a charge off. Um, maybe some of them have experience, but I think that we have way more experience in doing this for our clients, and also telling people exactly how to do it and what to expect. One of the things, this is what I believe makes what I teach you here, and what makes my company different, and what makes the instruction that I give different. Like, because you're always looking for what makes you different. People ask us this question, and is that we have the experience. And one of the things that I've learned over time, over the years of being in business, is that people have a level, have like it builds up on the inside, to have some sort of expectation, good or bad. They're like, tell me what's the worst that can happen, or what's the best that can happen, so I can feel better on the inside, because they have anxieties and all types of stuff. And one of the things that hurts people from being able to move forward is charge-offs on their credit reports. Because if you think about it, a charge-off tells another creditor how you treated the creditor that you were working with before. So when they see that, it's like, we're gonna approve money to this individual, and they had a charge-off with another company that's the same, that's one of our competitors. So if they didn't pay them, how are they going to pay us? And so let me give you some information about that, some good news about that. Credit card companies, banks, all these places, they do care about that, but they don't care about that. What they care about the most is that you resolve your issues, because they cannot make any money. They cannot move forward in this type of economy that we live in right now without being able to make loans. And companies file bankruptcy and reorganize all the time. In essence, they do charge-offs on their vendors, and individual consumers, us, we've had issues in the past, or we're going through issues right now, and we could have charge-offs on our credit reports, but it's about how you resolve them. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about it specifically, how you can resolve them and your expectations, like so you can continue going forward. Because sometimes when you get a solution, is that because it didn't work exactly for you the way that it worked for somebody else, you end up quitting. So I'm going to tell you what to expect during the process, and I'm going to tell you how you can continue moving forward, because your situation is unique to you. It is not the same as someone else's. It may look the same on paper. It may look like a charge-off on paper, but there's always something different. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that. You might have a relative, friend. We've even had couples that had the same account on their credit reports, and it was totally resolved different for one of the for the husband or the wife than it was resolved for the other spouse. So your situation is going to always be individually different. So before I get into that, I want to talk about some good news that's going on right now. And everybody else is talking about bad news with the economy. Everybody's talking about inflation. Everybody's talking about that the credit is, going to tighten up. It's going to be hard to get loans, credit cards, all of that stuff. Let me tell you, right now is what I feel from what happened in 2008. Right now, I don't believe that we're going to go into a recession. I believe that we're going to have another, like a smaller, potentially a little dip, but I don't even think it's going to, if really from what I see, I don't even think it's going to be a dip. I believe that we've already went through the dip. And some of the numbers that you might see out there where they talk about people having their cars repoed, losing their homes, credit card defaults and all that stuff, if you really think about it and you dig deep, don't just look at what they're saying. What is the reasons why people would have auto loan repossessions. Well, I did my own research and I saw that in the majority of the states in the United States, that people have payments of over $1,000 a month on their vehicles. If you have a $1,000 a month payment on your vehicle, you better be making at least in your pocket after your taxes, after your insurance, everything, you need to be making at least $10,000 a month. Because if you're not, you're going to find yourself upside down with your other expenses because you're going to have your house, your rent, your whatever credit cards, if you got student loans, all of that stuff. If you're spending more, when all of that is added up and you're spending more than about 65, 75% of your money on just maintaining your lifestyle, it's not going to work. Trust me, I went through that in the 90s. It will not work because you cannot outgrow your expenses by trying to always go out there and create more income if you're working for somebody. Now, if you own your own business, it's a different story, but you still got to be careful because you have taxes, you have other expenses that you got to be very careful about. But so one of the leading indicators on why there's so many repos is that a lot of people are paying $1,000 a month or more on their car payments and they don't have the income to support it. The next thing is credit card defaults. The same thing is people have too much credit card debt. It's easy to pay the minimum monthly payment. That's the trap that they want people to fall into. I fell into that trap in the 90s, and I'm just here to tell you that you're going to have to put together a plan, depending on where you're at with your credit situation. Put together a plan to get out of that credit card debt. You're just going to have to do it. It goes into the whole picture with everything is that if you have $1,000 a month car payment and then you got 4 or 5 credit cards and you're paying minimum payments of 100 here, 300 here, 400 here, that's not going to work. That's going to end up catching up with you. Next thing is mortgage foreclosures. This is something that when it happened in 2008, I saw some people that in my neighborhood, they lost their houses, flat out lost their houses. But a lot of people held on to them. They just said like, hey, we're going to reorganize our budget and we're going to be able to make it through this. I remember my home, I had bought my house for $352,000 and it had dipped down to a value of $240,000. But do you know if I would have got scared and just said, hey, we're just throwing our money down the toilet, which I tell you, you're not throwing your money down the toilet if it's your house. It's going to appreciate, which mine appreciated more than $300,000 more than what I paid for it. When I sold it, I got $300 and some thousand more than what I had paid for the house. So don't worry about that type of stuff. And also there's other benefits of owning your own home is that you don't have a landlord looking over your shoulder. My wife wanted to have all this stuff done to the house. She don't have to ask a landlord's permission to get that stuff done. Your kids, it's just everything is totally different when you live in a neighborhood where everybody or the majority of people own their own homes. It's just a different mindset in there. So, and then also some of the other things people are worried about inflation. Let me tell you, inflation is going to be there. And you can't have, there's 2 things you can't have. You can't have low unemployment and have low inflation. It just doesn't go because the demand, people have more money, they're buying stuff, and the companies cannot keep up. So what they do is they raise their prices. They're like, hey, we got to get more of this stuff, got to raise our price. And it just goes down the line. All of the suppliers that supply certain products and services, they just start increasing because, hey, if people are going to be out there lining up to get it, then why don't we make more on the people so we can kind of do more for them? Like this is just straight up. If people understood business, they wouldn't be trying to get people all hyper active about this stuff. A lot of this is experience. A lot of this is they just try to get the new, throw stuff in the news to get people all upset. I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm just telling you, I'm here to give you the good news. No matter what type of economy we have, no matter what type of money we have, if you cannot manage the type of, in the economy that we have now, and you cannot manage the money that is prevalent in our economy right now, it doesn't matter what type of money we switch to, you're going to find yourself in the same situation because money is an idea. You are money. You create money, but right now, if you work at a job, you create your money by the time that you spend at your job. That's the only way you understand how to create money. If you own a business, you create money by the products and services that you sell to the market. But look at it. You create money by providing a service. So if you provide the service, you get paid money. It doesn't go to, it's not the opposite where people give you the money and then you come up with the service to provide. It doesn't work that way. So get your mind right on that so you can move forward. So let's move on to talking about how to remove a charge off. First thing to remove a charge off, you need to understand where you're at in the game with your charge off. Are you dealing with the original creditor or are you dealing with a debt collector? A lot of times people don't, and on your credit report, you could have potentially both of these on your credit reports, or you could just be still dealing with the original creditor. So now let's break it down first. If you're dealing with the original creditor, this is an account that has just went bad, or maybe it's about to go bad. Well, no, we're talking about charge off. So the account has went bad. So this is what a charge off is. Let me define it. A charge off is when the account is taken off the books. A charge off does not mean that you don't owe the money on the account. All it is that it's notifying the investors, hey, this account is no longer performing, so we have to take it off the books. That's what we're doing, so you can see with the books how the company is doing. It would not make any sense to leave a charged off account where somebody is not making payments for 3 to 6 months, depending on what type of account it is. But we'll just talk, for example, a credit card. For 6 months, if you don't pay that credit card for 6 months, it's going to charge off. And no matter what goes on, in most cases, it can never be reinstated because the account is going to close. Now, there's other things that credit card companies are trying to offer now to keep people where you can say, hey, we can put you in a special program and then the card could be reinstated later. You know, all of that stuff. I'm talking about where everything's blown up and the account has been closed. You didn't make any payments for 6 months and it's totally charged off. At that point, the original creditor is going to make a decision within a certain period of time. Some original creditors will sell the debt off to portfolio companies. They just do it. They're not in the business of trying to collect the debt. They don't want to hire an attorney to collect the debt. They just sell them off. Like, this is just their cycle. This is probably the way that they wrote it in their business plan. You might be wondering, like, why would they even do that? Because now they're going to get like pennies on a dollar. I don't know the answer to that. That's just what they do. Now, there's credit card providers like American Express, Discover, Capital One. What they're doing with their charge-offs is that they're hiring firms to go out there and sue people. So not all original creditors are just passing off the debt to debt collection companies. So now let's go through the process. If you have a charge-off with the original creditor, charge-off, follow me. You have a charge off with the original creditor, because this is all about finding out where you're at. And if you don't have your credit reports, you need to, if you have charge offs, you know that your credit is in bad shape. You need to get all of the information. You don't need to go halfway. When you buy a new car, and you don't just go and get the new car, you make sure that you have gas in there so you can drive around. If you have charge-offs, you know your credit is in bad shape. You need all of the fuel to be able to start figuring out how you're going to get yourself out of this situation. And part of it is having all of the information. Do you want some of the information to start working on getting the charge-off off of your credit report? Or do you want all of the information to start getting the information off your credit report? Let me tell you one specific thing that you need to watch out for on your credit reports that you probably are not even aware of. Did you know that some original creditors write off the whole debt and send out a 1099-C. So you might be saying, well, how will I know if I don't receive the document from the IRS? Because the IRS is understaffed right now. They haven't even been getting these documents sent over. They've been recording them, but they haven't been getting them sent over to the consumers, notifying that they had a 1099-C. And I don't know what's the deal with the original creditors. They're supposed to send a copy to you, and they're supposed to send a copy to the IRS. Seems like they're just sending it to the IRS, because we've had multiple clients call the IRS, and they said, yes, 1099-C cancellation of debt has been filed on your debt. Now, to be clear, it is not going to happen until it's all the way charged off. Like if you're making your minimum payments right now, and you think that that's going to happen, that's not going to happen. It has to go through the full charge off period, and it does not happen like on the 6th month. It could happen on the 9th month, 10th month. It's going to be a process that goes back into letting you know what you need to, your expectations, so you can understand that this is not going to be something where it charges off and then you're working on this process right away, waiting on them to send those documents. It doesn't happen that way. That's why I want to let you know so you can understand what you might be going through for your specific situation. So now, with the original creditor, and this is something that we had accidentally, one of my employees accidentally did, because I used to say, hey, why would you just do a debt validation to the original creditor with the debt? And it's like, it doesn't make any sense because they're going to have all the documents. But what we had found that when we did that, we turned that into getting an account review. And when you get that account review, then you can go into getting information on how you can file a hardship. And what a hardship could potentially do is get your account either canceled, if it hasn't already been canceled with the 1099-C, and or a settlement. Now, let me back up. Something just came to my mind that I forgot to say. When you get your credit reports, get your credit reports. In the comments section, we would see where the original creditor would say something like cancel. They would say canceled. So normally it would say closed. In the comment section, it would say closed, or it would have a line where it would say closed. But what I want you to be aware of is when you see the word canceled, that could potentially mean that the debt was filed with a 1099-C. We've actually had clients where they downloaded their credit reports, attached that information, and was able to get that account removed off of their credit reports, because once it's sent as a 1099-C cancellation of debt, and you have some sort of proof, either the 1099-C form or you utilize your credit reports where it says that it's canceled, and you state in your letter, your dispute letter, that this debt is either paid or it's canceled and needs to be removed, that can happen, but you won't know that unless you get your credit reports. And I'll show you a place where you can get your credit reports, or all your credit reports and scores. So now you can either, when you do that hardship, you can get them to do a 1099-C. They make that decision. You don't tell them to do it. They make that decision based off your hardship, or it's going to be where they're going to offer you some sort of settlement. That's if the original creditor still has it. Next thing is, once you do any of these, whatever happens with them, is that you can use that documentation to start the removal process. Another thing that you need to be aware of, and I saw this with a video, and I want to make this clear to people, that original creditors will never do a pay for delete. Now, if it's like a company, that small company or something like that, but a credit card company will not do a pay for delete on a charge off. You're going to have to do all of the legwork to get that taken off. So that's another thing with expectations, and I think that goes with experience. People are making these types of claims, and it's really because they just don't know. They're just kind of confused on where you could do the pay for deletion. Pay for deletions works with collectors, but pay for deletions does not work with original creditors. You're going to have to either pay the debt or show the 1099-C, and that could be with the settlement, and then you need to do your own work to get that account removed. And that is the process that you would go through. Now, what can make this different for people? What can make it different for you over someone else? It could be for how long you had the account. It could be for the amount that you owe on the account. It could be if you did a debt consolidation and you attach the account to your home, like you own your home and you do a debt consolidation loan, that credit card debt becomes part of your property to where they could say, well, we have an effective lien on their property because they did a debt consolidation loan. You got to be aware of that. So there's always certain things that can make your situation different than other people's situation. Maybe you're in the military. When I was in the military, one of the things that could get you in trouble is that if you don't pay your debts, the companies can send your first sergeant or your captain a letter saying that, hey, you got a soldier that is not paying their obligations, and they can put a lot of pressure on you. And that is something that I would see happen when I was in the military. So there's always different situations that can make your process with dealing with the original creditor a little bit different than somebody else's. Now, let's get into dealing with debt collectors. And this is where most of you are at, is with dealing with debt collectors, and you're trying to figure out, how can I get this debt collection charge off information? Well, it's really a collection on there and you have a charge off with the original creditor. How can I deal with all of this to be able to get this stuff removed off of my credit reports? The first thing that I want you to do and that you need to be aware of is that if the debt collection company has purchased a debt, what you should immediately do is you should send a letter to the original creditors, legal department, or whatever department that you can see on your furniture. That's another important reason why you need to get those credit reports that has all of the information, because you want to send this letter, a letter stating that this account has been paid. You've accepted a settlement on my account, so it's considered paid in full or paid for less. You want to send that directly to the original creditor, letting them know. From experience, what the original creditor will do is they will take that information off of the credit report. It might happen on the first time you dispute it. It might happen on the second time, third time. But I'm here to tell you from experience that information will get removed off your reports. Because if you think about it, if you were to pay the account, what would they have to put? They would have to put settled for less, right? If it does not state if you pay it or someone else pays it. What happened with the debt? So if they accept it for less, which when they deal with debt collectors, they accept a whole lot less, that does not matter. And that's like a gray area. That's one of those things that they don't even want people to know about. So they've accepted a payment on that. The original creditor has from the debt collector. You have the information to prove that they have, and you want to have that information removed. And so that's getting rid of the original creditor charge off. That's going to get rid of that charge off on your account. So that's dealt with. Now we need to deal with this debt collector who has bought this account, and they're going to really try to put a lot of pressure on you to come after you for the debt. So the first thing that you need to do with the debt collector, and I want to be clear on this, you need to do a validation of debt. You need to make them get what the original creditor would have had to give you. So remember when I talked about that account review right here? Remember when I talked about that, and when my employee accidentally sent the debt validation to the original creditor? When they sent that debt validation to the original creditor, the original creditor sent back a stack. Like, they was like, here's your original contract. This is the signed contract. This is all of the charges that you did. They sent all of that stuff. And that's why I was like, why did you do that? But then when I thought about it, it's like doing an account review, because when we got all of those documents, immediately the original creditor had went into talking about doing a settlement. So it can get you into that process of a settlement, which gets you to be able to introduce the hardship, which gets you to be able to potentially get a 1099-C. So you see how all of this stuff works. But now back to the debt collector, you want to have them do a full validation of debt. Make them get what the original creditor would have. Here's the problem. They will not be able to get all of the information that the original creditor would have. So all they're going to do is they're going to send you a couple of statements. They might have a contract. Someone stated that if the debt collector sends you a contract, or if they send you a court order saying that you have to pay the debt, well, they wouldn't send you a court order saying you have to pay the debt unless they had a judgment against you. So already this individual is giving out bad information. So let's get down to what the debt collector, before they get to a court where they've sued you and got a judgment, what you need to do is you need to stand on doing a complete debt validation and making them have the attorney who is over their law firm state that they've reviewed the whole file, that everything is correct, the amount, all of that stuff. That they won't be able to do that. That's why they're just gonna stop. I mean, I know I'm like, when I think about this, I get excited because this works so well when we do it in our office. And I know it'll work for you because I'm going to give you a letter. So don't worry about that. I'm going to give you a letter that you'll be able to utilize. But I get excited because this is the way that it works. And it just gets excellent results. So first thing is you're going to do a full debt validation. They're not going to be able to get the information. They're just not going to be able to get the same information from that the original creditor would have. They're going to have a couple of statements, maybe 2, 3, 4. I've even seen now that they got like more statements, but they're still not getting the complete amount of statements. They usually don't have a signed contract, usually don't have your payment history record, usually don't have interest rate charges. There's a lot of stuff that they just won't have, full account numbers, all of that stuff that the original creditor would have. And then to have the attorney review the file. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, when they send out that dunning letter, which is that 30-day letter that all debt collectors are required to send out, an attorney has not reviewed. All they're doing is that's like a fishing letter to see who's going to respond, who's not going to respond, so they can go to step 2 in their process. That's what they're going to do. So if an attorney has not reviewed the file, you want to put them on notice that you want to have an attorney review the file. Now that's going to get into what we're going to do, how we're going to close out the video. I'm going to give you 3 letters that you can utilize. First thing that you need to do, and you need to have your credit reports to be able to do this the right way. First thing, if you don't have your credit reports, go to the website, your3scores.com. to grab your credit reports. That is the company that we utilize to get credit reports. We're an affiliate with them, and we work with them. And if you get your credit reports from them and you want us to review them, we'll tell you exactly how we can help you or how you can help yourself by the information that we see on those reports. Go there, get those reports, because you might see the word canceled. You're going to need the furnisher information for that original creditor, that address, so you can send your validation review to get into this part here if you want to do that. And then you're going to need all of the information for that debt collector if they put that information on your credit reports. It may not be on there if it's early in the game. It may not be on there. They've just sent that letter and you have to respond to that letter in 30 days. So you get your credit report so you can know what's going on fully. All of the addresses, who's on there, who's not. And then if it's with a third-party debt collector and if they've sent the letter and it's not on your credit reports, or it's on your credit reports, you're still going to utilize the letters that I have. So the first one is your statute of limitations. You need to know if the debt that you have is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Every state is different. You can go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com, go to my blog, type in statute. You'll see the statute of limitations for all 50 states. Column number 1 are regular loans, and column number 4 is credit card loans or credit card debts. And if it's past the legal statute of limitations for your state, you do not have to do a debt validation. That you just have to notify them that you have no legal obligation to pay them. Even if it's the original creditor, you don't have to pay the original creditor as long as they haven't gotten a judgment against you. That's the difference. That's what can make your situation different than someone else's, is that you have a judgment or you don't have a judgment. That's what can make a difference. Now, the next thing is and I give you the letter for that. Next thing is a cease and desist collection activities letter, not to be confused with a cease and desist communications letter. This cease and desist collection activities letter will put them on notice for your charge off that you want them to get all of the information for the account to prove the claimed amount. When I say claimed amount, this is what I mean. Claimed, if they say $10,000, you want them to prove how they came up with the $10,000. How do you get them to prove how they came up with $10,000? You had them do a debt validation. You make them get what the original creditor would have had. They don't get access to that information because the original creditor sold it to a debt collector, and they're just giving them a debt portfolio with a few statements with your information, only 4 digits of an account number. They're giving them very little information because they don't want to expose their company to certain things. So there's a lot of stuff that they don't even give them. So the claimed amount, when we say debt validation, we're not just talking about the documents to prove that you owe them the money. Like, they're going to be able to give you that just based off of what the Supreme Court said, a couple of statements and where they got the debt from. You want them to prove, how did you come up with $10,000? Show me that. It's like getting an account review in a way. Show me how you came up with that amount. And then you will be able to put them, push them back and say, hey, we have someone here that is asking, they're not trying to run from us. They're asking, how did we come up with that amount? So what do I say? How do we respond? Some of the times they just say, we're not going to continue coming after you. But that's not even it. That's like the first part. The next part is you're asking, did an attorney review this claimed amount? Because an attorney has a review, like when it's all said and done, and these debt collection companies have gotten into trouble for buying charged off accounts and not having the attorneys review it and sending them to court to go after people. An attorney has to review and determine, can we prove that this individual owes us $10,000? Now, why do they do it? Why do they do it over and over and over again? Number one, because 95% of the people don't even show up to court. They just get default judgments. And then number two, the people who do show up to court, they don't know to ask for this, so they're going to end up getting a judgment right there with the person being in court. So they just don't know. That's the problem. So if you have charge-offs on your credit reports, you're dealing with charge-offs, you have an original creditor charge-off, or you have a collection that is on your reports, or you have a debt collector who is trying to come after you for a charge-off with the original creditor, I just gave you the full solution on how to do it. And yes, there's also going to be some nuances to your specific situation, but I just gave you the blueprint, the outline on what you have to do and what you have to expect. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video what makes us different so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores, and all of the information that you'll need to be able to get that charge off removed off your credit reports. And then grab my 3-pack of letters if you have debt collectors coming after you. Statute of limitations, cease and desist collection activities letter, and debt validation letter. The cease and desist and debt validation work together because if they start to try to come back and ask you other questions, utilize that debt validation letter. You might have to make some little adjustments based off of what they come back with, but you can utilize that as your outline to go back and forth with debt collectors. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com.